Imagine if you could unlock the secret to sustainable motivation in your workplace. What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about motivating people was wrong? Welcome to CEO's Library, the 1% bookshelf, where we distill game-changing insights from the world's best business books. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a book that challenges everything we thought we knew about motivation in the workplace. Why Motivating People Doesn't Work and What Does, by Susan Fowler, is a paradigm-shifting exploration of human motivation. In the next 13 minutes, we'll uncover why traditional motivation tactics often backfire, explore the 6 motivational outlooks that drive behavior, and reveal the 3 psychological needs essential for optimal motivation. By the end of this episode, you'll have powerful new tools to bring out the best in yourself and your team. Let's start with a question that might make you uncomfortable. Have you ever felt frustrated trying to motivate your team only to see short-term gains fizzle out? If you're nodding your head, you're not alone. This is what Susan Fowler calls the motivation dilemma, and it's at the heart of why so many leaders struggle with motivation. The problem, Fowler argues, isn't that people lack motivation. It's that we fundamentally misunderstand what motivation is and how it works. Think about it. Have you ever tried to motivate someone who just didn't want to do something? It's like pushing a boulder uphill. No matter how hard you push, it always seems to roll back down. This is because motivation isn't something we can do to people. It's not about dangling carrots or wielding sticks. The truth is, people are always motivated. The question is, what are they motivated to do and why? This brings us to one of the book's central insights, the spectrum of motivation model. Fowler introduces us to 6 motivational outlooks that reflect different reasons why people take action. These outlooks fall into 2 categories, suboptimal and optimal. The suboptimal outlooks are disinterested, external, and imposed. These are like motivational junk food. They might give you a quick burst of energy, but they leave you feeling depleted in the long run. Let's break these down. Disinterested motivation is when you simply don't care. You're apathetic and disconnected from the task at hand. External motivation is when you're driven by external factors like rewards or punishments. This is the carrot and stick approach we're all familiar with. Imposed motivation is when you feel pressured to act a certain way. You might comply, but you're likely to feel resentful. Now let's contrast these with the optimal outlooks, aligned, integrated, and inherent. These are like motivational health food. They generate high-quality energy, vitality, and well-being, leading to sustainable results. Aligned motivation is when you connect your actions to something you value. You might not love the task itself, but you see how it contributes to a larger goal you care about. Integrated motivation is when the behavior aligns with your sense of self. You do it because it reflects who you are or who you want to be. Finally, inherent motivation is when you genuinely enjoy the task itself. It's intrinsically rewarding. Understanding these outlooks is crucial because it shifts our focus from trying to motivate people to understanding why they're motivated in the first place. It's about quality, not quantity, of motivation. Let me share a story from the book that illustrates this perfectly. Fowler tells us about Himesh, a lab manager who was struggling with a technician who seemed unmotivated. The technician's work was adequate, but he showed no initiative and seemed disengaged. Himesh's first instinct was to use external motivation, offering a bonus for improved performance. But after learning about the spectrum of motivation, he decided to take a different approach. He sat down with the technician and had what Fowler calls a motivational outlook conversation. Through this conversation, Himesh discovered that the technician was actually highly motivated, just not in the way Himesh expected. The technician was passionate about environmental issues and saw his lab work as disconnected from that passion. Once Himesh understood this, he was able to help the technician shift his perspective. They discussed how the lab's work contributed to environmental research, aligning the technician's daily tasks with his deeper values. The result? A dramatic improvement in the technician's engagement and performance without any change in external incentives. This story illustrates a crucial point. When we understand the why behind people's motivation, we can help them shift from suboptimal to optimal outlooks, and this leads to sustainable, high-quality motivation. But how do we facilitate these shifts? This brings us to another key insight from Fowler's book: the 3 psychological needs that are essential for human thriving. Think about a time when you felt truly energized and engaged at work. What made that experience different? Chances are it satisfied one or more of these 3 needs: choice, connection, and competence. Choice is about autonomy. It's the need to perceive that we have options and can direct our own lives. When we feel like we have no choice, our motivation suffers. Connection is about relatedness. It's our need to feel a sense of belonging and genuine connection with others. When we feel isolated or disconnected, our motivation wanes. Competence is about mastery. It's our need to feel effective and experience growth. When we feel stagnant or ineffective, our motivation plummets. These needs are universal. They're hardwired into our psychology. And when they're satisfied, we naturally gravitate towards optimal motivation. So as leaders, our job isn't to motivate people directly, it's to create environments that satisfy these needs, allowing optimal motivation to flourish naturally. Let's look at how this might play out in practice. Imagine you're leading a team working on a challenging project. How can you satisfy these 3 needs? For choice, you might involve team members in decision-making processes. Instead of dictating every detail, you could set clear goals and parameters, then allow your team to determine how to achieve those goals. For connection, you could foster a culture of collaboration and mutual support. This might involve team-building activities, creating opportunities for meaningful interaction, or simply taking the time to genuinely connect with each team member. For competence, you could provide opportunities for learning and growth. This might mean offering training, giving constructive feedback, or assigning stretch tasks that challenge team members to expand their skills. By focusing on these needs, you're creating an environment where optimal motivation can thrive. You're not trying to motivate people directly. You're setting the stage for them to motivate themselves. This approach requires a shift in mindset. Instead of asking, "How can I motivate my team?" we need to ask, "How can I create conditions where my team's natural motivation can flourish?" It's like the difference between trying to force a plant to grow by pulling on its leaves versus creating the right conditions, good soil, water, sunlight, for the plant to grow naturally. Our job as leaders is to create those conditions. Now you might be thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but how do I actually put it into practice? Fowler provides several strategies, but one of the most powerful is the motivational outlook conversation. This is a structured dialogue where you help someone explore their current motivational outlook and potentially shift to a more optimal one. It involves asking questions like, what are your thoughts about this situation? What emotions are you experiencing? How meaningful is this to you? What choice do you have in this situation? How does this connect to your values? What can you learn or how can you grow from this? These questions help people connect with their values, see their choices, and find meaning in their work. They facilitate the shift from suboptimal to optimal motivation. Let's revisit our earlier example with Himesh and the lab technician. When Himesh had this conversation, he discovered that the technician's disinterested outlook was masking a deeper, more optimal motivation. By helping the technician connect his work to his environmental values, Himesh facilitated a shift to an aligned motivational outlook. This shift didn't just improve the technician's performance, it transformed his entire experience of work. He went from going through the motions to feeling genuinely engaged and purposeful. And here's the really exciting part. These shifts can create a positive ripple effect throughout an organization. When people are optimally motivated, they tend to spread that energy to others. They're more collaborative, more creative, and more resilient in the face of challenges. Imagine the impact on your team or organization if everyone was operating from an optimal motivational outlook most of the time. The boost in engagement, productivity, and innovation could be transformative. But it's important to note that this isn't a one-time fix. Motivation is dynamic. It can shift from moment to moment, task to task. The goal isn't to achieve perfect motivation all the time, that's not realistic, but to develop the skills to recognize suboptimal motivation and shift to more optimal outlooks when needed. This is where self-leadership comes in. As leaders, we need to model this process. We need to be aware of our own motivational outlooks and practice shifting them. When we do this, we not only improve our own performance and well-being, but we also demonstrate to our teams what optimal motivation looks like in action. So let's recap the main takeaways from Fowler's groundbreaking book. First, traditional motivation tactics often backfire because they focus on external factors rather than addressing the underlying reasons for people's behavior. Second, understanding the 6 motivational outlooks: disinterested, external, imposed, aligned, integrated, and inherent, gives us a framework for assessing and improving the quality of motivation. Third, satisfying the 3 psychological needs of choice, connection, and competence creates an environment where optimal motivation can flourish naturally. As we wrap up, I want to challenge you to put these insights into action. Start by examining your own motivational outlook. What's driving your behavior right now? Is it aligned with your values? Are you feeling a sense of choice, connection, and competence? Then have a motivational outlook conversation with a team member this week. Remember, the goal isn't to motivate them directly, but to understand their current outlook and help them shift to a more optimal one if needed. By mastering the science of motivation, you can transform not just your leadership, but the entire culture of your organization. You can create an environment where people don't just perform, but truly thrive. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Why Motivating People Doesn't Work and What Does by Susan Fowler. If you want to dive deeper into these concepts, I highly recommend getting a copy of the book. You'll find an Amazon link in the episode description. Remember, the full transcript of this episode, along with accompanying visualizations, is available at ceoslibrary.com. And if you found value in today's discussion, please share this episode with a fellow leader who could benefit from these insights. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in your leadership journey. This is CEO's Library, the 1% bookshelf, where we turn the best business books into actionable insights for top performers like you. See you in the next episode.